y'all, and welcome back to another episode of Hope and Homeschool. I'm Lindsay Anderson, founder of hopeandhomeschool.com and Kingdom Mom Coaching. If you have not already, please go check out the Kingdom Mom podcast. It's available on all major podcast platforms. It's a brand new podcast and it has been getting rave reviews. We're so proud of it. We hope you absolutely love it. Go check it out. But today we're going to be talking about dealing with sibling fights the Christian way. All right, so I actually talk to a lot of moms as part of the Kingdom Mom coaching community, and this is something that a lot of parents feel guilt about and they don't know how to deal with it, okay? So what I found is some parents are actually ashamed of the fact that their kids argue, and they think we are a good Christian family, like we're doing our best to raise up these kids. Why are they arguing with each other? So first of all, I want to let you know the same thing happens in our house. Yes, I am a Christian mom coach. And my kids still fight with each other because they're kids, okay? So first of all, the thing that I'm going to tell you, step number one, is you have got to change your perspective on sibling fight. It's not something to necessarily be feared. I always look at my kids' negative behavior as training opportunities. Now, obviously, we don't want our kids to be bad. We don't want them to be fighting with each other. We don't want them to disobey, but they're gonna, because they're kids. So stop holding your kids and putting them under this pressure and having these huge high standards for them. Like, they need to have space to learn. And so the first thing you need to do is change your perspective. View your siblings' arguments as actually training ground for building solid relationship skill, okay? Step number two, when your kids are fighting, you want to pull them aside, get them separated from each other, have them stand in front of you, and then it's confession time, okay? What I always do is I make them one at a time. I usually start with the oldest. I make them confess what their part in it was. This is not the time, and they know this. It's not the time for them to be telling me what their brother or sister did. It's time for them to be telling me what they did. And so it's confession time. This is where they have to own up and take responsibility for their part in a disagreement. So many adults don't know how to do this. So I'm training them in this when they are young. So they each take turns, and their responsibility is to confess their part in the situation. If they were to refuse, which my kids have been trained up in this, so they just know it's best to confess. If they were to refuse, they're gonna go put their nose on the wall for a bit until they decide that they want to confess. Or if they start by trying to tell me what it is that their sister did that provoked them, then they're gonna go put their nose on the wall until they have time to think about it for a little bit, and then they can come back and tell me. Step number three is it's time to apologize. So then they have to say, Susie, I'm sorry, please forgive me for disrespecting you, or please forgive me for saying those mean things to you. Please forgive me for not showing you love. I try not to, and I actually learned this from Danny Johnson's Grooming the Next Generation for Success. I try not to have them say something like, I'm sorry for hitting you, because the root of hitting was anger, or the root of the offense was disrespect. So please forgive me for disrespecting you, okay? They need to say the root versus the actual behavior. Does that make sense? Step number four, forgiveness, okay? So after they ask for forgiveness, they need to be granted forgiveness. So it might be, Joey, please forgive me for not respecting you. So it might go something like this. Joey, will you please forgive me for disrespecting you? And then Joey says, yes, Sally, I forgive you. Because not only did they need to learn to ask for forgiveness to humble themselves, but they need to learn how to dish out forgiveness. Step number five, and this is the most important step, edification. This is super important, and some adults could learn from this too. When we argue with somebody and we're being disrespectful, we often speak pretty cruel things over somebody else. So this is the time to cancel that bad seed that we just planted. We're gonna, number one, pray for some crop failure there. But number two, we are gonna sow good seed. We are gonna speak life over that person. After the children have asked for forgiveness and granted forgiveness, now we're gonna ask them to tell Joey how you actually feel about him. And then they're gonna have time to edify. Why? This takes that relationship. So now they're calm, but now they're speaking life over each other, and that builds trust and that solidifies that relationship. So it might go something like this. Joey, will you please forgive me for saying those mean things to you? Yes, Sally, I forgive you. The truth is, Joey, I actually love you very much and think you're a great brother. I'd like playing with you, and it would make me sad if you didn't want to play with me anymore. That just built trust. That just brought the love back into that relationship. So there you go. If you would like to go back and kind of reference these steps for the next time that this happens, we actually have a blog post that I will link below that you can literally print it off, and then the next time your kids fight, you can pull it out and be like, okay, these are the 4 steps that I need to go through. So we will link that below for you, but I hope that was helpful. So that's how we deal with sibling fights the Christian way.